WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
When it comes to being able to grow your business and to be involved in your community, there are a couple of different ways to do that. But our next guest she's been on the show before and she's taught us a little bit about this. I think that it's really an interesting approach for us to be able to think about how we can do other things, Dennis.
Yeah, it's one that is close to my heart. In that, getting involved in the community, one, you're helping the community, but it's also can be helping you personally either grow an experience, grow networks, just to give back. And there's nothing better than to give. And because and when you see something that you're working on and see the results that happen, it's just such a positive feeling. And in today's world, a lot of our podcasts we've talked about with other people, the world's a pretty negative place. And so by giving back, it's a way to help others, but expand and help you see that there is a brighter tomorrow. And so Deb's joining us today and it's going to talk about how to get involved more in a board. And you don't have to have tons of experience. This is great for young people moving into a community, people that are retiring. It's like she says, it's basically open to all. And so she'll give some insight. I think you'll find this very insightful and joyful.
Yeah, Deb MacFarlan Enright is the founder of Leadership After Dark, and she's going to talk a little bit about board positions in nonprofits and what that means. This is a really interesting conversation. So let's take a listen. I think when it comes to strategic positioning and being able to get involved in your community, there's so many things that we can do. But being involved with a nonprofit and serving on the board, Dennis, is something that I've done. I know that you've done, and it's a special thing. If you've gotten the opportunity to do it, it really has been eye-opening and really something I never expected that I could get so much from.
Yeah, and it opens up so many new doors because many times it's people that you would never connect with or meet that are on the board. Um, and there's different reasons that you're going to serve on a board. I mean, there was one, I was in charge of the Christmas parade in Franklin for 5 years. It wasn't to be on the board. I just love parades. So it's like, it was more personal than being on the board, but just being able to coordinate and do all that and get the teams and people together. But then there's other people that do it for business reasons. And so there's all kinds, and some do it for growth reasons. So there's all kinds of benefits of being on a board that help you kind of get outside the norm and hopefully have fun while you're doing it is the key thing.
And so today we're glad to welcome back Deb. Deb, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We loved you. Thank you. This is your second time here. And so we appreciate you coming back on the show.
Well, you guys are awesome. I mean, I had so much fun the last time. You guys are really great company. So, of course, I'd accept this invitation.
Well, let's talk a little bit about board positions. This is something that I have to admit, before I was actually involved with a nonprofit board, it seemed like it would be something that only the super wealthy or the leaders in our community, a Bill Gates or a Steve Jobs type of person would be involved with these really heavy duty, nonprofits and they're raising millions of dollars, but that's not really the case, is it?
It's kind of scary when you think about it, right? Because at first you think, well, if I don't have, a couple billion to kind of spread around, then who am I? I'm here to tell you that from the smallest to the largest, all are welcome to serve on a nonprofit board. And the leverage point, the lean in, the access point really is what's your expertise and experience? And it may be, Benny, that you have this incredible contact list and maybe at the top of the game of a certain industry, and that'll be leveraged. But man, if you're just starting out or you haven't had time before because your career was really demanding, you have so much to give to a nonprofit to help them in an oversight position get better, get stronger, get smarter so they can serve more people or puppies or plant trees or whatever.
Exactly. And I mean, and the list is unlimited based. I mean, there's thousands of nonprofits out there and they all need positions and people to fill in. And there's different roles that we were talking about before we started recording. There's some where they're trying to raise money, and it's important to know what it is they want that position role to play, because if they need you to raise money, that might not be your passion. but they may have roles where they need people just to help with a project or accounting or keeping track of stuff. And so that may be something that's good for you. And I encourage you to definitely ask lots of questions and shop out there for those boards that are the right fit.
Yeah, Dennis, I think that's right. I think there's also different ways to approach service. And particularly for people such as your listeners who have a boatload of expertise and experience, right? So when you're thinking about your fit on a board, we kind of put it into three different lanes, and there'd be many ways to dissect those lanes as well. But, some people love startups and not just entrepreneurs who are kind of wired that way. We love to start things creative and seek a challenge, but there may be folks who've never had that experience and they'd really like to understand what that's about. That's a way to look for a fit. Or the folks who have gone over that classic 5+ years, hurdle. So now there's a payroll, now there's insurance. Oh my gosh, these people are coming and now we have a program and people are counting on us, etc. And then there's the legacy. And there are folks who, whether it's their season of life or their expertise or where they live in terms of their career, that being on a board, serving on a board with an organization that's been around a bit, that's going to start talking about succession, right? Change management, going to be talking about replication, etc. So that's another way. I mean, you can look and see if you like puppies, find out what those organizations are doing, but it can also be another way to look at like, well, what's the maturation level of the business, the nonprofit, and maybe that's how I want to approach
And,
it.
and we're going to be moving, in the next few months to a new city, and I'm actually already starting to look at what are boards that I could, or nonprofits that I might be able to get involved in. At first, I might start out in a very limited role, but hopefully it's a way to grow and meet people in a city that we're moving to that I don't know anybody. And so Deb, you and I are in Nashville. Lots of people moving to Nashville. It's a great way for people to get connected. You're giving back, but you're also getting to meet people that were probably already here for a while, plus a lot of other new people that are coming in. And you're all focused on the same cause. And it's a great way to just meet people and have fun and solve a problem.
Well, and Dennis, you would know this from the parade, right? So you also get the skivvy on your
Right.
community, right? I mean, yeah. So you learn about the organization, and you get to help the organization, and certainly there's a business value in terms of networking, and you kind of get to show off your skills a little bit, but you also get to like, okay, so talk to me about, teachers, or talk to me about a pediatrician if you're just coming in, or talk to me about who walks dogs, or talk to me about where I should live because we're in an apartment right now waiting to see. I mean, and you are exactly right. There is the three of us know that the experience of serving on a board is life affirming for sure. And I don't mean to get all hallmarky, but you really do
Hmm.
feel good doing good. But it can also be super practical. And I think we've talked about in different ways how it can be practical. So, yeah, the one is you learn more about your community from the very people who are in the community. So if you're new to a community, just like you're doing, I love that you actually spoke into that. You're an accomplished civic leader, and you're going to a new town, and instead of, well, guess that's over in my life, you're like, all right, I'm going to onboard, and I'm going to do it in a way that makes sense for how I want to discover an organization versus just say, hey, I've served on them before, just plug me in. I mean, that's a terrific way to understand, because moving to where you are going to move, the culture is going to be different, the alignment's going to be different, the folks who serve are going to be perhaps approach it differently. And so for you to kind of get a sense of that before you leverage in all that talent is a really great way to go about finding out what's going to fit for you.
It's funny as you were talking, Deb. I remember an experience that I had. Um, I work for a nonprofit here in Boulder, Colorado, and as a business owner too, I'm always trying to find different ways into a company. And uh, there was this large advertising firm, one of the largest in the country, that I had been just trying to talk to, and of course, me being kind of like the pipsqueak in my industry, I wasn't given really the time of day. But this company actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, we would be glad to do a marketing campaign, help you some for advertising for your nonprofit." And so, what happened? It's me, the executive director, sitting in their boardroom talking to the CEO of this company, and I'm just, he was glad to see me happy. I had been trying to get in touch with this guy probably for no less than 3 years, and here I am talking to him, and it was just a really surreal type of experience where this guy's actually trying to sell me on these different marketing campaigns, and I'm going, wow. It was pretty incredible, very surreal experience.
It's like the ripple effect of doing good. Right? I mean, you lay into a organization and help them, but it's really true. Just like Dennis said, I'm going to get to know my surroundings, my new surroundings better, but there is this
Mm.
networking component. So in transformational work, there are byproducts of kind of some transactional work that we shouldn't shy away from. I mean, it is an absolute value add to serving as a civic leader.
There's so many things, and for those of you who are listening, if you've never had the privilege and the honor of being able to work in that, what Deb and Dennis were talking about with regards to just understanding your community, you really do get a different. We have a tendency to look at things just through our own eyes, but when you look at it from, especially from the viewpoint of a nonprofit who isn't really trying to close sales or really trying to get business, they're really trying to do good in the community. And people approach you very differently. And to me, it was very rewarding. It's something I'm proud of what we had done. And I know that Dennis has shared with me some of his experiences, and Deb too, you as well. It's just something I would encourage people to be involved in. But uh, one of the things I do want to ask you, Deb, though, is that there are some folks out there that maybe they're not doctors or lawyers or engineers, and they don't have per se a skill set that is obvious. I had a friend who was an attorney, and part of what their requirement was is they had to do some pro bono work and volunteer to be on the board. But if I'm a stay-at-home mom, or if I'm maybe just a couple years out of school and I'm new to the community, I've got the energy and the time, but maybe not a skill set. So maybe I shouldn't go and try to get on a board.
I mean, if I can use my own story, if y'all don't mind. So I grew up in a home where I had exemplary models. And I also went to a school, and that's what we were taught to do, right? Go change the world, make it better however you can, at whatever scale, but just make it better. And so I was a stay at home mom. And there came a time when I wanted to do more in the community. And so, whether completely ignorant or just bullheaded, or it was kind of our family legacy, when folks started to invite me to join the board, I was like, yeah, I'll help. Um, Here's what I haven't done. Here's what I can do. And I would love to help. It led me to leadership on an international board. And so, to your point, Benny, it's not about the amount of letters after your name or the degrees on your wall. It's really just a passion to be with other people who are hoping to help an organization do more
Yeah,
good.
that's really important, and I think that I want to underscore that is that I've met a number of people who, and listen, there are people, there are organizations out there that need your help. You may not think that, hey, great, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an engineer either, but for some reason there was a need that I was able to bring to the table, and it was something that you just never know until you ask. And but along those lines too as well, you need to make sure that the nonprofit you're working with too as well is in alignment with you too as well, right? If I'm going to go and do something that's like, not really an interest of mine, or I'm just doing it to maybe check a box, that's not good either. You really need to do a little bit of research and see where you can be a good fit, right?
Yes, thank you for saying that. We believe that all board seats are priceless, right? When you serve on a board, you're supporting people that literally put 60 hours in a day, right? Because they wake up or don't go to sleep thinking about how can they make the world better in whatever way that they're doing it, large scale, small scale, doesn't matter. And so the ability to say no is as much a gift to that organization as to sit dormant and take up a seat for what could be up to 3 to 6 years. So Benny, I love this. It Go ahead and do some homework. I mean, if you're interested, I mean, Dennis is just such a perfect example of this. Figure it out. What is it that you've done before that you really like? What is it that you do at work that you really like? What is it maybe that your family has done before? Have you been affected by something? What is it that really kind of would move you to get involved, spend more hours in the day away from work, perhaps even family, take on responsibilities that you really didn't understand you might need to, but now you're incumbent to, and be glad of that versus see it as an add-on to
Hmm.
your to-do list.
Yeah. And Deb, to your point, if you get on one and you feel it's not right, or, they sold you a bill of goods, say something and exit, in a graceful way. Just don't show up, but let them know that, hey, you talked about that. I was sharing before we started recording that there was a board that I was asked to be on. They never mentioned that we were going to do fundraising. Fundraising is not my thing. And then one day they invite my wife and I to come over, and in the conversation, they wanted us to donate $25,000. And that was not something that was where I was at in my lifestyle at that point, and that I didn't know that many people that were going to donate $25,000. I can get you lots of people that can help with processes or dedicate time, hours, that kind of thing, but they're not going to write checks. Bill Gates, on the other hand, probably call people up and get all kinds of money. And there's lots of people in there's people in the community that are good at that. And so it's important to free that seat up. And I graciously bowed out.
And it's painful. So I did the same thing. I had served on an organization for over 8 years, and I actually, Benny, much like you, they were a client, and then when I was finished with that strategic plan, they would you join us? And I was just
Mm.
absolutely honored. I totally believe in the mission. They have done incredible work in the community and continue to. But they shifted the meeting, which had been long standing, from the evening to the middle of the day. I knew I couldn't consistently, based on how the meetings were placed, which obviously we knew well in advance. There were things on my schedule I
Mm.
could not shift. And so I knew, heartbreaking as it was, that I needed to give up the seat for no other reason than there was just a shift in the meeting. And that can happen. I mean, it can be as difficult as what Dennis is talking about, not really understanding the responsibility or getting the full picture. But it can also be just a logistics thing.
There's so much there, and I think that being able to uh, do the research and understand what it is, it has to really align with you, not only in terms of your interests, but your personal mission. And when you find that right one, listen, you only need to find one. You don't need to be a member. I hear these guys who are members of like 6 boards and they're doing all this advisories. Come on, listen, what we want to do, just move the needle a teeny bit in where you're happy. And if it, at the end of the day, you feel like you've contributed to the cause, you've contributed in your community. Wow, that is a powerful combination.
Benny, I really like that move the meter. It's because you need to anticipate you are going to pass the baton at some point. And seeing the end kind of at the beginning, either you're going to serve one term and then your season changes, or you hope to serve a couple, or however the organizations do it all differently. But knowing that there's an end, I think gives a different perspective. And if you know what your responsibilities are, kind of just as being a board member wherever, right? Whether it's
Hmm.
fiduciary or advisory, right? But also understanding what that particular organization needs, you then can become more tactical. So your first day, you can actually decide and know how to have impact. And then that knowledge grows, and so does your support of that organization. So, yeah, 100%. 100%. The more you know about what your engagement needs to look like, the more fulfilling the experience
Right.
is.
Deb, there's so much here, and I really enjoy this particular talk. It's really important, and I think there's so much to it. But I know that there are going to be people who have specific questions that they have to have answered, or they're not sure what's the best way to being approach it. What's the best way for people to be able to get in touch with you if they need to ask you some questions?
Oh, thanks, Benny. I welcome all questions. I just really love this conversation. I'm so grateful to you folks. So you can do it right through the website, www.leadershipafterdark, all lowercase, .com, or Deb at leadershipafterdark.com. I'd be very happy to answer any questions. Just as has described, and Benny, how you have also described, it takes a little bit of work to find out, but man, once you're sitting in that seat and you see what's happening and how people are changing the world and how they're making it different, and the new friendships and perhaps the networking opportunities and the legacies that you're leaving, it's really a marvelous way to add depth to your own journey.
And I would even recommend, so a business owner, if you've got a team of people, and sometimes you guys you may not have a leadership program inside your organization because you're small. This is a great way to kind of get free leadership and especially someone that wants to do more, that they learn and they interact with other people, and then they bring it back to your business. So you're giving back to the community, but you can also be benefiting yourself and the person in your organization that you're encouraging to get involved. So think outside the box, encourage people to look at nonprofits because they're great ways to expand your network, expand giving back, and expand making life better for everybody. Deb, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Deb. We appreciate the time. This has been super helpful.
You guys are the best. Thanks for inviting me back.
Well, Dennis, that's another podcast in the can. I know that a lot of you all want to know how to get in touch with us. Dennis, what's the best way for folks to be able to get a hold of you?
Yeah, email's by far the best for me. It's Dennis J, so DENNISJ at worksolution.com, and that's WORX solution, no S at the end, so solution.com. Benny, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. Get a hold of me. My email address is benny@velocitytechnology.group. That's BENNY at velocitytechnology.group. Also, for me and Dennis, you can find us on LinkedIn. Look for us on LinkedIn. Our Work From Home with Two Guys is on LinkedIn. And we also have a website, wfh2guys.com. Look us up. You'll find all the past episodes and some little bits of information that maybe we don't get a chance to talk to on the podcast. We put it out there too as well.
And definitely share us with your friends and people in your network.
Absolutely. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast your podcast. Give us some ideas. If you'd like to be a guest, let us know. We'll talk to you guys soon.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.